One Piece manga chapter 923. This is just absolutely insane, guys. I'm sure the entire One Piece fan base is losing their minds right now because our boy Luffy just took his official first L in the New World. Now, like I said before in my chapter prediction video, it was one of the two outcomes. The gag approach, whereas Kaido is still drunk, and the whole thing gets extended with Kaido not noticing Luffy after the elephant gun. Or the more serious approach, whereas it was going to result in Kaido and Luffy fighting head on. And based on what we got in this chapter, it was the latter. But damn, I did not expect things to go this way. But I'm definitely hyped, just like you guys should. Now, for the future of this arc, it's tough to say where this is going because right now it seems like Luffy is now out of the picture, which is massive for the overall plot of this arc. But let's start from the beginning, guys. Now, surprisingly, the elephant gun did push Kaido to the ground, but Kaido wasn't phased at all. He was just more so pushed. And I also think the full transformation overall is the weakest for zones because it's not exactly convenient for fights. Just take a look at X-Drake, Lucci, and Jack. And this is clearly emphasized with Kaido changing from full transformation to base form to fight Luffy because it's easier and he can do more. But I will say that full transformation does have its benefits. Now, Luffy goes back to check on everyone, and we learn that Kaido had actually defeated Speed on his way back, and she was unable to protect Otama. Now, this is something that people were saying for the longest, that if Speed takes Otama, something was gonna happen. I'm not too sure why they had to let her go in the first place, but the big question is, where is Tama right now? Now, we did see Tama bloodied up in that panel, but more than likely she's still alive. Now, Luffy was pissed, which is reasonable because it really goes back with the whole thing with Ace and Otama, and given that she had some form of relationship with Ace, Luffy feels like he's responsible for her if anything happens. At this point, Luffy is pissed off and wants to get rolling with Kaido, which is part of his personality, and even Law couldn't hold him back at that point. Law did tell him that they need to escape before things escalate, but given Luffy's Pirate King mentality, he wants a piece of Kaido. Now, Luffy rushes back because he feels like if Kaido is defeated, everything would be resolved. There would be no need for the plan, and yeah, it didn't turn out exactly as planned. Now, Luffy actually did pretty good against Kaido's full transformation because he was able to push that form back. Again, it really goes back to what I said about full transformation because it's not exactly the best form to fighting, and that was shown. Now, he goes into Gear 4, which is to be expected because you would want to be in your strongest form when you're going up against these Yonkos. Goes in with a Kong Organ. Now, this is where Kaido's durability is shown in full effect because this is nothing like we've seen before. Kaido tanks Luffy's attacks in Gear 4 with little effort. Now, he wasn't even trying to block, he just kind of laid there while Luffy was attacking, and it came to the point that Luffy got tired, and then it was over in a second. Kaido one-shots Luffy for the KO. Now, it's kind of crazy to go up against Kaido with physical power because Kaido arguably is the strongest when it comes to physicality. What you'd want to do is use hacks to sort of counter it, but like besting Kaido in physical power, that's not happening. And the scariest part about the one shot is that Luffy went into his strongest form. Gear 4, a form that is very comparable to the power of a Yonko commander, gets one shot. That is extremely frightening. Now, it's one thing if you get one shot in your base form, but it's something else if this happened to you in your best form. So Gear 4 is absolutely nothing in comparison to the base form of a Yonko. And guys, this isn't Kaido in his hybrid form. No awakening. He didn't even use Armin Haki. This guy is a monster. This is just pure brute force, and it was able to bypass Luffy's defenses completely, which knocked him out cold. I'm starting to understand why Kaido is called the strongest creature. And I mean, even amongst the Yonko, Kaido has sort of separated himself to be this extremely special individual. And honestly, people should not blame Kid for taking an L. We've seen it firsthand of what this man Kaido is capable of, and you have to give props to Kid because he was the only person that was willing to fight against Kaido. So everyone saying Kid has been taking losses in the New World, you have to take a step back and realize that the people he was up against weren't scrubs. If anything, Kid is just like Luffy. Even though he knew Kaido was a Yonko, they both didn't back down. So the Kid is weak slander needs to stop, and hopefully this chapter changes a lot of people's opinion on Kid because the slander for Kid in this community is crazy. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say that Big Mom couldn't do this and Big Mom couldn't do that, but this doesn't refute the fact that she's a Yonko and more than likely can fight Kaido on equal terms. I mean, we had something similar in Whole Cake when Luffy went into Gear 4 to attack Big Mom, but thinking back on it now, it was definitely Big Mom who forced Luffy out of Gear 4 and not Luffy himself. And it makes a lot more sense because this is what happens when a Yonko doesn't have a nerf. You get one shot. And even with the nerf, Big Mom was still a force of nature. If Big Mom was insane for the entirety of Whole Cake, I'm 100% positive that the Straw Hats wouldn't have escaped. So yeah, Luffy has a long way to go. Now Luffy was acting a bit rash in this chapter. Now I know that his crew got attacked beforehand, but he was so willing to fight Kaido right off the bat. He should have checked on his crew before going after Kaido. I feel like Luffy should know what his limitations are at this point, because the Yonkos aren't just one step above. These guys are several steps above Luffy right now. Luffy is going to need a lot to fight the Yonko. Now there's a key phrase Luffy keeps saying in the New World: even if it's a Yonko or an admiral, I'm not gonna run away. I think after this, Luffy has to take a step back and realize his actions could prove to be very consequential in a bad way. Flashbacks to Subodi. But this is good because hopefully Luffy learned from this, because this is technically his first loss in the New World. He was dominating his way through so far, so this was bound to happen sooner or later. Now this also proves to me that we're gonna see a massive boost in power for Luffy, very similar to Enies Lobby, but it's gonna be on a way bigger scale, taking things like Awakening and Conqueror's Haki into account. Because during Enies Lobby, we basically had Lucci showing up and load different boat Zoro and Luffy at the same time, but then towards the end of the arc, he gained Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, which made him on par with Rob Lucci. So this is good because we know Luffy is going to have an amazing comeback. Now I'm not saying he's going to be on the same level as Kaido, because that would just be crazy, but he's going to obtain something very powerful in return, whether it be Conqueror's Haki or the awakening of his Devil Fruit. And I think this is going to apply to the other Straw Hats as well, specifically Zoro and Sanji. This is basically the New World version of Enies Lobby for these guys in terms of growth, because they are going up against a lot of people right now. It's not just the Yonko, but the Yonko and his alliance. Now how are they going to get these power-ups? I'm not sure myself, but again, I've said this before, I think Copper Gaban could show up in Wano, and that could leeway to them learning on how to become stronger. Now I did mention that I wasn't of the mindset that Luffy was going to get captured right off the bat in my predictions, because I was thinking of where this arc was going to go, because we have to realize here that Luffy is an important asset to the alliance right now. He's one of the strongest fighters in the alliance, if not the strongest. For him to be taken out this early, it's hard to predict what's going to happen next, but this in return could leeway to us getting some information about Kid and Killer and what's currently going on with those guys. Now obviously we still have Law there, so he could shambles Luffy out of there and escape with him. I think this could be the reason he went with Luffy in the first place, because of Luffy's personality, but I will say that Luffy getting captured is very plausible at this point. But this chapter was definitely insane. Not what I was expecting, but I like where this is going. And I was expecting Luffy to take a beat down, a massive beat down sooner or later, given his personality. Again, this showed the power of a Yonko without restrictions. Now we saw it with Big Mom as well, but I think this chapter had a better portrayal of the level these Yonkos are at and the gap between them and the Supernova. And this also applies to the Admirals as well, because we have to realize that Fujitora was restricted in Dressrosa just like the Yonkos. Fujitora wanted to make Luffy defeat Doflamingo and make him become the hero of Dressrosa, on top of the fact that he liked Luffy as well. Everything points towards Oda not wanting to make Fujitora and Luffy fight, because he knows that Luffy is not on their level yet and was going to lose if they did fight. But when it comes down to Yonko commanders, he lets Luffy fight these guys because he knows Luffy has the potential to beat them. But I'm definitely invested to see where Oda takes this, because this is getting intense right now. Honestly, right now Wano is living up to the hype, little by little. Now it's not there yet, but it's heading there. But yeah, there is no break next week, which is great because it's on these type of chapters Oda usually pulls a cliffhanger. So I cannot wait to see what happens next. But where do you guys see this going? Do you guys think Luffy's gonna get captured, or is Law gonna come in clutch? Comment down below what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you guys later. Peace.